Hello, and welcome to We Saved You a Place, a show on ATXN dedicated to exploring the stories, people, and places that shape our city's identity. I'm your host, Kim McKnight, and I am the manager for the Historic Preservation Office, a division of Austin Planning. We're excited to bring you thoughtful conversations about historic preservation, what it means, why it matters, and how it connects us to our past, present, and future. Today, we'll be talking about preservation's role in a changing city. To help us explore that, I'm joined by three accomplished women whose leadership and perspectives are vital to this work. Our guests today are all leaders across government, nonprofit, and civic life. We have with us Mayor Pro Tem Vanessa Fuentes, who has represented District 2 on the Austin City Council since 2021. The Mayor Pro Tem grew up in Central Texas and has made it a priority to strengthen Austin's affordability, expand access to childcare, and build resilient communities. Roxanne Evans is the Vice Chair of the Historic Landmark Commission. A longtime Austinite, Vice Chair Evans has written for the Austin American Statesman and numerous other publications, served as Deputy Press Secretary for Governor Ann Richards, and worked in communications for the City of Austin and AISD. Miriam is the President of Preservation Austin, a nonprofit dedicated to historic preservation. Ms. Connor has led a wide range of community-centered projects in art, culture, and policy. She also founded Creative Policy, a firm dedicated to bridging storytelling and policymaking. Each of our guests brings their own perspective and lived experience to the conversation, and together we'll talk about Austin's future, what we want to protect, what is at risk, and how preservation can shape a more equitable and inclusive city. Preservation is about more than saving old buildings. It's about honoring the full story of Austin, its landmarks, cultural traditions, legacy businesses, and community memories, and making sure that story reflects everyone. Let's dive in. Austin has undergone a rapid transformation in the last 10 years. What aspects of Austin's evolution excites you the most? I'm going to start with you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, for me, last year, 2024, was a big year for our city. Council took action and adopted our first equity-based historic preservation plan for our community. And this serves as a roadmap that really looks at, where have we been as Austinites? Where are we right now as a city? And where do we want to go? So by having this plan, we are conveying and demonstrating to our community that we are serious about historic preservation efforts. We have a plan on how to implement. And now it's all about taking action and seeing that plan through. So I think when we think about evolving as a city, to me, that was kind of a really good and an important step.
That's fantastic. Vice Chair Evans.
Well, I'm very excited about the new people who are coming into our city. And so we have the chance to capture news stories and to make the news stories and the evolving histories of the newcomers sort of merge it with who we are as a community and, building a group of people who respect each other and respect and honor each other's histories.
Fantastic. Ms. Connor, how about you?
So I'll blend them together. So it's always about our past leading to a brighter future. And so looking at our past of about 16% of our historically designated spaces being for BIPOC, LGBTQIA communities, having this plan, the equity-based preservation plan, set a precedent to actually have a brighter future for everybody. So it's super exciting. It's everything.
While I have you, let me ask you another question. What place do you hope will be preserved for the future? What are some of the priorities for preservation?
Definitely legacy businesses, because legacy businesses hold our culture together, right? They offer affordable spaces for community, everything from food to records, right? They provide the space that we need to have a brighter soul.
Fantastic. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, for me, it's a yes and. It's about preserving our legacy businesses and then really, no pun intended, building on that and in preserving kind of the ethos of Austin. The thing that makes us such a wonderful, incredible community, why we have so many people who want to come and live in Austin for that quality of life. And it's about embracing that creative spirit. And for folks, that can mean a lot of different things. It could be parks, it can be music, it can be our breakfast tacos. Like it could just be the things that make Austin such a quintessentially great city. So that's what I love about our preservation plan. It really embraces all of that and takes a look at how are we preserving our buildings and our structures so that the people of Austin can enjoy and experience them. So it's about ensuring that much more than just buildings, it's about people, businesses, creating those experiences and preserving those experiences for Austinites.
Fantastic. What about you? What is a priority for preservation? What is a place that you hope will have staying power?
Well, certainly I could add on what Mayor Pro Tem and Ms. Connor said. It's businesses and it's also spaces and places, parks and gathering places, places that have meanings in different communities, but also, capturing untold stories and cemeteries, making sure we preserve our cemeteries because there's so much history in those places.
Now, not to put you on the spot, but in terms of specific places or specific businesses, what are some things that come to mind for you that you find are representative or meaningful to you as kind of quintessentially Austin?
Well, certainly places like Sam's Barbecue, other businesses. There are some businesses in East Austin, some mom and pop operations, car repair places. There are a lot of places that when you drive through communities, you just feel you're in familiar territory because the businesses have been around so long. So those kind of places, capturing and preserving those are important.
And just to build on this response, for me, I'm from Mexican heritage and descent, and for us, celebrating Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, is an important part of our traditions and our culture. So I've been really excited about the community effort around preserving San Jose Cemetery.
Yeah, in Montopolis.
Yes. And so, including cemeteries as part of that, I think is a key element of our preservation efforts. And it's something that means a lot to me personally as someone from Mexican heritage.
That's fantastic. What about you, Miss Connor?
I think of Rosewood Park. From the events that happened there with Juneteenth to Doris Miller Auditorium, the history that they have there, from James Brown playing there, and being able to listen to the history and actually listen to the history,
Right.
and feel what it would have been like to be there during those times. It's incredible. I'm excited about. Also, I saw that there's a new playground that's going in at Rosewood, and so that's
fantastic. And am I correct that you're associated with a longtime business that is unfortunately no longer around? Jean's Po' Boys, one of my favorite restaurants that is no longer in East Austin. Is that right?
Yes, it was my family's restaurant. It's where Hillside Pharmacy sits today, and we had it. It was a Cajun Creole food, and I was about 7 to 10 when I was in there serving everybody. Yeah, it was incredible. And being and growing up in that restaurant taught me that food was the community builder.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter who you were, we had people from the Capitol coming into the restaurant.
It was a beloved institution in East Austin for many years, and I miss it greatly.
Yes, I do too. I
Yeah.
can cook for you though.
There you go.
I will take you up on that. Now, let me just talk a little bit about, the stewardship piece of historic preservation and the roles each of you play. So in your role as a council member, for example, how are you working to protect what matters most?
Yes. Well, I take my role very seriously as a policymaker on ensuring that we are making sure that these plans don't just sit on a shelf collecting dust, that we actually follow through and implement the plans that the city adopts. And so one of the things that I was proud to champion this past budget cycle included a budget amendment focused on ensuring that we have the dedicated staff to carry through not only the implementation piece of the equity-based preservation plan, but also ensuring that we have staff to do the high volume of review
Right.
For preservation that comes forward, and also look at how can we create preservation incentives. So again, just taking a look at all the tools that are outlined in the plan, but really ensuring that we as a city are equipped, well-resourced, and have the policies in place for us to ensure that people that built this great city are able to age in the neighborhoods that they grew up in and they can continue to call Austin home.
Something I appreciate is kind of pointing out how the preservation plan that passed with council support last year aligns preservation with things like stabilizing communities as well as sustainability, other things that I think is so important to make sure that we're finding other reasons for historic preservation to be relevant. That's fantastic. What about as your presidency of Preservation Austin, the longest nonprofit supporting historic preservation in our city? Can you talk about your priorities and your role as a steward?
Definitely capacity building. Advocating for the 2 full-time employees was a big part of what we did for the budget. And then we are working with Houston Tillotson to hopefully have a class on historic designation.
Wonderful.
But capacity building, right? We need more people to care about preservation and value the culture that builds our city. I'm going to switch hats and put on my work hat.
Absolutely.
And so why not become what you seek, right? And so I'm becoming a real estate developer in order to build and preserve spaces and make them what our culture needs. That combination of advocacy, of uplifting like our old homes for Preservation Austin, our homes tour, having people that have the living legacies in those homes to tell those stories, furthering just the character building of our Austin story.
I'm very pleased to hear about the evolution in your professional work, and not surprised at all. So very excited. Vice Chair Evans, as chair or vice chair of the Landmark Commission, can you talk about your role as a steward, as well as maybe some of the other work you do outside of your role at the Landmark Commission?
Certainly. Well, I'm honored to be Mayor Pro Tem's appointee to the Historic Landmark Commission. I'm in my second term, and building on what Ms. Connor said, capacity building is very important, and the equity-based preservation plan enables us to do the kind of outreach and public education to bring more voices into the discussion about historic preservation. I think that's very important, and I think it's very exciting because of what it means for the future. And I'm also active with the Austin History Center Association, and I've been doing some work with UT. So in all the spaces I'm in, I try to convey the message that historic preservation is for everyone. There's some history or education or just a sense of belonging that we can all capture through historic preservation. So,
Fantastic.
Can I add to that?
Absolutely.
I was doing research, I get very dirty sometimes. And one of the things that I read was that people that are going through either gentrification or rapid development are going through spatial amnesia. Like spatial amnesia. We're forgetting the places that made us feel a belonging. And so spatial amnesia is like when you pass by a building that used to be there that you had ties to. You went to dinner there, or you went to go look at art there, and that building is gone, and it is Gilbert Rivera says that it's a burial site. It's a pile of dirt, right? But because that structure is not there anymore, it gets deleted from your memory slowly.
Right.
And so when a bunch of places get deleted from your memory, where's your belonging?
It's interesting you should say that. My oldest daughter has just moved to East Austin, and we were driving along East 7th just 2 days ago, and I was pointing out landmarks that were important to me when I lived in East Austin for many years and just growing up in Austin. And I said, there's where Acapulco Video used to be, where, it was, you could go rent Spanish language videos and also get shrimp cocktails.
There you go.
There's El Azteca. That's where, that's the last meal that your grandmother had before your uncle was born.
Wow.
Things like that, where she's thinking, like, really? Some of the buildings are still there, not functioning, and others have been replaced with new construction. So it is important to keep those memories alive. I mean, that's sort of oral tradition, but there's things that we can do, I think, to to communicate those stories. And that's something our preservation office is working hard to do.
That's right.
That's fantastic. All right. Well, let me keep moving. What are your hopes for historic preservation in Austin in terms of how it can become more inclusive, more impactful, and more connected to the communities it serves? How can we communicate to the public and our community what this new wave of historic preservation can mean? Any thoughts about how best we can do that?
Well, I think we need to do a better job of telling our story of what we're preserving, what the equity-based plan does. I know just in the short time I've been on the commission, we've saved a number of significant properties that, sort of the untold stories. And the one that immediately comes to mind is that during the Sweat v. Painter litigation, uh, former Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall was not able to stay in Austin hotels. So there was a home that he stayed at on East 12th Street when he was here litigating. And last year we were able to save that property. And so that story continues.
That's incredible.
And so being able to get the message out about the good work we're all doing, I think helps us draw in more fans and more interested people.
That's really important. And thank you for sharing that. Other ideas?
I'll add to that, including the new Austinites into those stories, into those the education of our history, right? It takes neighbor to neighbor to educate people about our neighborhoods so that way people understand where they have moved into and who is surrounding them. I think it is exciting how many people are now valuing preservation. And I think that, especially with last December, council voted for in 5 years since 2014.
I think it was over 10 years or so.
2014, I said 5 years. Math. For its first historic designation against the property owner's wishes. And that sets a precedent to everybody that our city actually cares about preservation. And so using that to perpetuate just the goodwill and also the education of who we are. And like Black, Brown, LGBTQIA women, like we have stories here. Asian American, we have stories here, right? We can't sit silent anymore.
That's right. And, I think about the trip that we took to San Antonio to go visit the city of San Antonio and their historic preservation efforts. Obviously, San Antonio is has been a city much longer and has historic property that are 300 years plus.
That's true.
And so there's that piece. But Austin, we are coming into our own as a city, and we have areas for the first time, for the area that I represent, District 2, Southeast Austin, that has been around for 50 years now. We're at that threshold where we need to do that historic survey needed for our land survey needed for our community. So our neighborhoods are aging. We're rapidly growing and evolving as a city. And so there is this urgency in us doing all that we can to preserve our stories, to share those stories, but to do it in a way that is welcoming and embraces that there are people moving to Austin every single day, and we value being a welcoming city. And so we want to ensure that as people move to our city, that we are telling that story through the preservation efforts that we employ.
That's fantastic. I'll add that, historic resource surveys are a really fundamental building block of a historic preservation program. And the way I explain it to people is you can't protect what you don't know you have. And it's a way to educate property owners about the value of their buildings, the history of their buildings, so that they can make more informed decisions. And it helps us, identify priorities for historic preservation. So thank you for mentioning historic resource surveys and how critical it's something that we are currently doing and we hope to continue to do so that we can eventually
get down to District 2.
Yeah. What about you, Vice Chair Evans? What are some of the strategies and ways that we can bring people into the fold? What do you think the most important ways are to do that?
Well, one thing I'd like to see during the development of the equity based plan, we had a lot of community engagement. We had a lot of stakeholders. And I would like to see an opportunity to keep those people engaged at some level and to continue to build on what they had to offer in the plan and kind of help us enliven the plan and continue to keep it alive as a living and breathing document that will guide us going forward. I think that's important. There were some wonderful partnerships that were forged, and I'd like to see those continue.
I'm glad you brought that up. I love that. Yeah. We are planning to continue that engagement, not just with the people that brought us to this point, but also with the new folks that have expressed an interest. So stay tuned for more. That we agree with you completely. We built a lot of goodwill and important partnerships that the process of developing the plan in many ways is as important, if not more so, than the plan itself, because we need the community to help us with implementation.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, as we sort of draw to a close, is there anything else that you might like to add or discuss, or anything that we haven't talked about today about your experience working in historic preservation in the city of Austin?
I would just add, I represent a district that is on the outer edge, Dove Springs, Del Valley, that we have a lot of land in the ETJ portions of the county that also need to be preserved and need either a historic landmark designation. For example, we have a really prominent African American farming community that desperately needs a historic landmark designation. For their contributions and the role in our city's history. And so when I think about how can we do, I truly see this as the first step, and there's so much potential out there for the city and collaboration with the county and with our state. And so I really, as we continue to build on the implementation efforts, I hope that we have the opportunity to expand and work with our county partners to see what that process might look like.
I think that's a terrific idea. We'd love to continue that conversation with you.
Great. I would like people to understand that preservation is an environmental issue. That in 2010 to 2021, we demolished 5 million square feet of building. And for every 1,500 square foot house, that's 41 tons of embodied energy or waste that goes into the dump. And so thinking about all the construction that's happening now, all of the demolition that is happening now, how much waste are we actually making? And when we say that buildings are green, it actually takes 10 to 80 years for that building to then become green. Thinking about from the demolition of a piece of property to actual energy in a green building. So 10 to 80 years based on a building that's been there for 50 years or more is.
I think a lot of people overlook that, we think about green building as a new construction, but really the greenest building is the one that's already there. And I think that's not something I came up with, but it's something we like to say in preservation. Any final thoughts?
Well, I was impressed by what Mayor Fortem said about property in the ETJ, because as Austin grows and it kind of grows around some former communities, there are a lot of historic communities outside of Austin that sometimes get overlooked because no one is there anymore. And so that, to me, creates an opportunity, perhaps with Travis County, perhaps with the state of Texas, to join us in some of our preservation efforts.
Well, with that, I think we'll come to a close. And this has been a really inspiring conversation for our inaugural episode of We Saved You a Place. I want to thank our guests for sharing their insights and reminding us that historic preservation is more than bricks and mortar. It's about heart, it's about culture, it's about people and stories, and how we work together to carry forward all of these things as Austin continues to grow and change. Today, we heard not just about the challenges, but also the opportunities and the chance to shape a future where our history reflects the full cultural richness of the city. Preservation is as much about looking ahead as it is about looking back. It's about ensuring that future generations inherit a city that still feels like Austin. If you'd like to learn more about our work, you can visit the City of Austin's Historic Preservation Office online. We'll also be sharing resources and updates on social media so you can get involved in shaping Austin's story. Thank you for joining us for this first episode, and we look forward to many more conversations with people who are helping preserve, protect, and celebrate what makes Austin unlike any place on earth. Until next time, this is We Saved You a Place.